Shalom from Jerusalem. This is Mahaleyah, and this is the second in a series of videos pertaining to the 4 blood moons. The 4 blood moons is a phenomena. It's prophecy concerning Israel. The first blood moon is going to appear over Israel April 15th, 2014. The last blood moon will appear over Israel September 28th, 2015. During this course of events, major events will take place that will affect the state of Israel, Jews and Hebrew Israelites alike, here and around the world. The only thing that we can say for sure is in the past, 4 blood moons indicate major upheaval and victory for Israel. What will happen this time, we can't say. This particular video will delve into the history and the significance of the Jews and the Hebrew Israelite. It appears as though they are very, very closely linked. So sit back and relax and let's take a look at history. We can't say for sure what will happen in the future, but one thing we do know, the New World Order, this is God's design and no one else's. Shalom. Greetings from Jerusalem. I'm Mahaleyah, and I'm back again, as I promised, with more information on the 4 blood moons. As you know, the video that you saw and all of the videos that you're seeing all over the internet concerning the 4 blood moons is directly concerning Israel. A lot of information was given and it talked about the connection between the Jews and the 4 blood moons. However, what was missing in that description of the events that are about to take place and the events that took place in the past was the Hebrew Israelite connection. That is what we're going to delve into today. And I have here today my brother Amoniel, who will give us more clarity on the Hebrew Israelite connection for all our brothers and sisters that need to know exactly what is prophetically taking place here in Israel. Welcome, Amoniel, and welcome, Brother Abshalom.
Thank you. Thank you. Toda, yeah, toda.
Okay. Could you just briefly give us a bio, Amoniel? He'll go first in giving us a little bio of who he is and the authority that he stands on as to the information that he's about to share with us today.
First of all, giving all praises to the Most High. Y'all, I greet you all in the holy tongue. Shalom, shalom.
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 I am the headmaster and dean of the Hebrew Institution, of the Institute of Hebraic Fundamentalism and Cultural Research. I say I'm researching, restoring, and repairing all of our lost culture that was trampled under the feet of the men when we went into the diaspora. That's my major purpose. I'm dedicated to that. As of now, you understand, I've been charting our Hebraic calendar, and I deal with it through lunar observations. So I'm very well adept of this matter with the triad, the tetrad that is now taking place, and how it affects us as a people, Hebrew Israelites.
Could you just first of all, I just want to say there are a lot of our youth here in Israel and our youth abroad. As a matter of fact, people all over the world that may not even be a Hebrew Israelite, that may be Jewish, that may be Christian, we all want to have a basic understanding on the 4 blood moons and an understanding of the Hebrew Israelites. Can you just break it down and give us a cursory understanding of that so that we can, for the layman, the person that has no idea of what is taking place?
Yes, I can. First of all, we have to understand that the first tetrad that occurred of the 4 consecutive blue moons at 4 times in 2 years, it appeared at Passover in 1492, Feast of Tabernacles in 1492, then for 1493, at Passover, and then again it appeared at 1493 at Feast of Tabernacles. Now this happened on the major card that we now understand as a Jewish holy day. But in the year of 1493, there was no such term as Jew. It was only there was no letter in the English language at that particular time. J was not even in the English language. It wasn't in the Hebrew language either, but it wasn't even in the English language. Plus, the term Jew was not coined until the 17th century.
Okay, so basically...
So it had to be referring to Hebrew Israelites that were ones that were accountable to this particular tetrad that was going on. It had to be Hebrew Israelites.
Okay, but before we go into the Hebrew Israelites, let's get a basic understanding on what that 4 blood moons is. Mm-hmm. It is, the blood moon is not in itself unusual, is it?
No, it's not unusual. I mean, it occurs various times throughout the year, you understand? You may see a crimson red moon in the sky at certain times, any given time. It's a common occurrence. But what makes this is that it occurs specifically on these particular holy days, these Hebrew Israelite holy days, or Hebrew holy days, as mentioned in the scriptures, Leviticus the 23rd chapter, Pesach, and Feast of Tabernacles. And it happens in 4 consecutive times. And every time, it's only happened like that 3 times in the last 500 years.
Exactly.
And it has something significant to do with us as a people, something that happened to the Hebrew Israelites. Because there wasn't no Jews at that particular time, and I'm going to explain to you exactly how that went in this lesson.
Okay, for those of you that may not be aware, this year, 2014, in the month of April 15th to be exact, Passover is a holy day, a festive day in Israel where we celebrate the Passover. In October, there's going to be the Feast of Tabernacles, and that is going to be towards the end of the year. October 15th, I think it is. I'm not quite sure. Now, next year, it goes all the way, starting from April 15th, it goes into next year, Passover, when Passover begins. It's going to be another blood moon. That's the 3rd one. And the last one will be on September 28th, 2015. So that in itself is miraculous, is it not?
It's a very phenomenal situation, and what it means to the Hebrew Israelite community, we must understand that it talks about something that we're going to be faced with as a people that could be calamitous, very, very calamitous. But if we acknowledge the warning that is coming forth to you now, you can triumph over it with a victory for the Most High, because the Most High, this is the season of His visitation in the midst of us. It's a 2-year season where the Most High is visiting, and He's dealing with us as His people to deliver us from our situations of captivity at this particular time. So you're going to get some redemptive information to come to you that you must. It's like the trumpet is blowing from Jerusalem. We are at Jerusalem. And this is the blast of the trumpet telling you to prepare, beware, watch the signs that's in the heavens, because they are signifying certain things that you must be aware of as we go through these next 2-year processes. So, thank you.
Yes. Now, in 1492, that was the first series of blood moons within the past 500 years. Now, according to the Jews, this was an indication of the Jews being expelled from Spain.
Right.
And then also it was noted that they said, well, the Jews found refuge in America. So the calamity, the victory. Then later on, in 1948, the state of Israel was formed, the Jewish homeland. And then following that, well, there was, okay, it was the Jewish homeland, and then after that was 1967, and then they had the 6-day war, and then they retrieved land that they had lost, and they regained Jerusalem.
Right.
Okay, so this is the series of events that the Jews claim that indicates that they are the chosen ones, and that the blood moons have indicated that this was a time for them to for calamity and victory. So now, what does that mean? That means now, in the year 2015, in the year 2014 to the year 2015, it is slated for another prophetic event to take place. We don't know what that event is, but Amoniel is going to go now, and he's going to give you the Hebrew connection starting in 1492 all the way up to the present day.
Okay. We must understand that first, that the people that went into the captivities were not, they were black people. So this is not to dispute as much of the Jewish claim to this, but if the Jews cannot identify themselves as being a black people, then this doesn't apply to them. Because the people that came out of Jerusalem and went into the captivity were black people. And when they went up into the northlands of Europe and different places like that, through culture diffusion and different things like that, they began to lighten their skin. They began to practice trying to be like the people who they had assimilated in the midst of, and so that they can be recognized as a people. But they were mulatto people, and they received the racism. But the thing was, they were the children of barons and landowners and different people that was connected with the kingdom, because they held the economy of those particular European nations.
So you said when the children of Israel left out of Israel, they were black, but they assimilated into other cultures and migrated all over the earth.
Migrated all over the northlands of Europe, and because their fathers gave them their inheritances, when they passed it on to their seed. And so they looked up in 100 years or so, and they held the economy of their nations. And this is why Isabella and Ferdinand, you understand, they went to the mulattoes to finance those 3 ships to go, take the first Jews to the new lands, or to the new dominions. And they was going over to the new dominions based upon trade. So when they got to the new dominions, they wasn't there to propagate a religion or something like that. They was there to propagate trade. Business. It was strictly a business arrangement. And so when they got there, it wasn't white men dealing with the Indians. It was black men people of color dealing with people of color. And we have to understand that the first Jews that went into America were people of color.
African
Edenic people.
Very phenomenal. Please continue.
So, all right, now this was 1493. It talks about we got our freedom as black people out of Europe, or what we thought was out of freedom, to the new lands. Instead of coming back to Israel, we went into the new dominions of America seeking a new life. They, in turn, what they did was the Europeans allowed all of the jails. They went into the jails. They was going to kill 2 birds with 1 stone. They're going to get rid of the mulattoes, and at the same time, they can empty their cells. They wouldn't have to feed the prisoners and different things. So they gave them the option to man the ships that would be going back and forth for them. When they got to the American dominions like that, then the European prisoners seized mutiny over the Jews and made them second-class citizens over there. This is when, they didn't have the money, but they still considered themselves superior to the Jews. Just like Europeans do, they consider themselves superior to people of color. Even today, you got a lot of what they call running around Europe as gypsies, and they consider themselves, the Europeans, Ashkenazis, they consider themselves superior to people of color. It's just in the whole thing. But this is what happened when they got to the States. The Jews were the ones that financed the first Revolutionary War.
The Jewish people.
The Jews, the mulatto Jews, or African Indianic Jews, were the ones that financed the Revolutionary War, so they didn't even fight for their freedom over there. And based upon the agreement that at the end of that Revolutionary War, they would be accepted, you understand, more as first-class citizens. That's when they set up the trade and everything up in the North England part of America at that particular time flourished in trade because the Jews established the Triangle Trade Agreement, which also went into the Middle Passages. So it was the Jews that financed the Middle Passages for our people to go into captivity.
That's interesting.
Yeah, they were the ship owners and the ones that came up with that whole thing that caused our people to go through that whole thing of, it was black people, Muslims, it was black people that grabbed them, and the Jews, it was black people that financed it, and it was black people that took them to the boat. There wasn't no white folks involved in that. It was family. We had a family feud, and it was all about us coming over in the bottom of the boat. And most of the people didn't come to America. Most of them went to the islands, you know. Cuba, Brazil, Central America, and South America. America couldn't afford slaves at that particular time. They didn't start getting shiploads of slaves until almost the 18th century.
Well, is it not a fact that there was a huge population of black people that already existed in America?
Yeah.
Because Christopher Columbus stated that these people were already there.
They were already there. Those were the first Jews. Yeah, they were already there. The Jews were the major traders with the Indians. So they were already there doing trade and different things like that, and they had set up the whole economic structure of New England at that particular time. It wasn't didn't nobody else have no money, didn't nobody have no connection. When they went into the Revolutionary War and different things with the colonial, they had heavy taxes on them, you understand? But the Jews were the ones that was in charge of the economy. In early American building and construction, development of America, it was the Jews.
Okay, that's interesting. Now let's fast forward to 1967.
Okay, all right, that's good. First, I'd like to read the definition.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like for Abshalom to read the definition of fundamental.
Definition, fundamental. Something essential of, pertaining to, or being the basis, root, or foundation of something.
Mm-hmm. Fundamental. We have to understand that anytime that they sent us into the captivity, it was a reason why that happened, and it was a fundamental reason why it happened. We had betrayed, you understand, our Father, and so He cast us into their captivity as a people. He didn't take heathens and do that. He took family members, Muslims. They were all, if you go into 83rd chapter of Psalms, and you read who it was, it says it was the Edomites, it was the Ishmaelites, it was the Ammonites. All these were family members. These were our people, these were African Indianic people that took us into captivity. And so we got to get out of this racial thing because we're missing the mark on that. And missing the mark in Hebrew is kata. It means you sinning because you don't understand who's still keeping you in captivity. Okay, read. Divine fundamentalism.
Definition. Divine fundamentalism. A belief that the Bible is to be accepted as an inherent and infallible spiritual historical document.
If you notice, he said document. The Bible is just a document. It documents something. Historical facts. Some of us take that into a whole nother concept. We believe that the Bible can't lie, don't have corruption. The Bible, it has a lot of lies in it. But if you read it, you're going to find certain codes in the Bible that are fundamental to our redemption. If it was fundamental to put us in captivity, it's fundamentally it can be used to take us out of captivity if you know how to read the Bible. You know, so the main thing about this class is to show you how this hooks up. First of all, in understanding divine, the word divine. First and foremost, divine is something which is found pleasing in the eyes of the Most High. If you got a divine marriage, it's found pleasing in the eyes of the marriage. If you don't have a marriage that's pleasing in the eyes of the Most High, then it's not divine. Mm-hmm. You know, if you don't have an economic system that's found pleasing in the eyes of the Most, then it's not divine. So in the kingdom, what we did when we came back, as that came back out of the captivity, the first thing that we did is we established everything under the divine divinity of ministries under divine ministries.
Now, what he is referring to here is us as members of the African Hebrew Israelites community of Jerusalem that left America and came here in what year?
We arrived in 69.
Okay.
Formally. But there was a premier individual that arrived in 1968. Am I correct?
Yes, that's when we get ready to get right into it, because we want to talk about now a moed. A moed, read the definition of a moed. It's on this page.
Could you spell that for us, please?
Moed is spelled, in English, is spelled M-O-E-D. Moed.
Moed, okay.
What it means is, I read it, appointed time or season. Mm-hmm. And the second part of that, just to extend it, it means feast of the Lord. Okay, so it's an appointed time for a feast of the Lord. Moed. A lot of times you hear those that speak Hebrew, you hear them say Moedim L'Simcha. They meaning that they're giving you a blessing for this appointed time. And it's signifying to a holy day. Now, we was talking about feast, the feast of the Lord. Every week, the Shabbat is a feast of the Lord. Every week, in the seventh day of every week, is the feast of the Lord. That's a moed. Mm-hmm. It's an appointed time. Now that means that we significantly have something in the heavens to let us know when everything is happening. Either it's the sun, the stars.
Wait a minute. Okay, just for the sake of clarity, if a feast is something that we generally look at as enjoying ourselves and eating a lot and banquets and all that type of thing, how does that translate into the fasting that the community of the Hebrew Israelites do?
Well, according to Jewish tradition, mm-hmm. they do have a feast. Mm-hmm. It's a part of their keeping of the Sabbath. Mm-hmm. Every Saturday or every Friday evening at sunset, they have a major meal. That's a real significant thing. But the way that we look at we look at it from Hebrew thought and Hebrew language. Shabbat comes from is also in the root of Shabbat is the word lishvot. Lishvot means to cease. So we understand that the Sabbath day, as everybody knows, is a day of cessation. Mm-hmm. It means it's a day of stopping doing whatever you've been doing 6 days a week. This day you don't do that. Regardless of what, you don't work, you don't do this, you don't eat, it's a total fast day. That's what the word lishvot means. So Shabbat means a day of cessation.
Okay.
Could I interject something?
Yeah, go ahead.
What I'd like, peace and blessings. What I'd like to interject is that the concept of consciousness intervened. As we arrived, we began to, as a community, begin to understand that language, feast, didn't mean a physical feast. Mm. There was a spiritual impetus that came in. That's to say that the body is like a machine. Mm-hmm. That's to say that your internal organs, for 7 days you eat. There was to be a cessation.
Right.
You stop. In order to realign yourself with the physical, spiritual connection of health. There was a cessation. But because that the interpreters of the language didn't understand that and still don't, because it's not given to them. It's a divine inheritance given to the Hebrew Israelite people relative to a sound that they were to hear and adhere to, because sound has the inherent power to produce the promised effect. So,
okay, now all of you may or may not remember this brother that's sitting here, very humbly. This is the brother Abshalom, a premier musician who has performed and studied with Sun Ra, and
among other people.
And go ahead and give them a little bit of your bio, because you're getting into sound now.
Sound has the inherent power to produce the promised effect, because it said in the beginning was the sound, and from that sound emanated the creations of Yah.
And so you have a lot of history with sound.
Yeah.
Can you just let them understand
Well, for
what
one
the
thing,
connection is with you and the sound?
Again, sound has the inherent power to produce the promised effect. I've been blessed to be involved with another dynamic, what I refer to as tone scientists. Not according to what the EUROSIN trickle definitions are. We refer to ourselves as tone scientists. We're dealing with sound, we're dealing with tone, because it's a science. It's a knowledge of something. So just deviating from what we were saying relative to the diet, but there was a sound that came forth that was heard saying that, hey, stop, cessation, and allow yourself to begin to rejuvenate. Rejuvenation, which would be another form of salvation, because salvation is internal. Resurrection, the resurrection is internal. So all of this was combined relative to a cessation, tying it back to
So we're talking about the Sabbath day being a day of cessation.
Okay.
And it's the feast of the Lord. You feasting on being in meditation with the Most High.
Okay.
It's a very intimate day. It's not a day for you to be talking with saying what you want to say or doing what you want to do. You're not supposed to have sex on this day. This is a day between you and the Most High. You understand? It's a day when you can roam the heavens with Him if you allow yourself to get into that meditative frame of mind. You understand? And allow yourself to roam the heavens. Because you're not eating, getting caught up in the tasting food. You're not doing this. You just sit. You're not resting. It's not a day of sleeping. It's a day for meditating and moving and letting your thoughts, letting the Most High talk to you. I'm trying to sound. you know, because you might have to talk. You might have to say something back because you might not understand. But the Most High will communicate with you if you allow Him to. You understand? He's a spirit, and we are spiritual people, and we have to deal with the Most High in spirit and life. You understand? Other than that, we're going to miss the mark. And then missing the mark is what? Kata, sin unto you, because you what? You're missing that sound.
That's interesting, and I'd just like to interject something just briefly. I don't know if you two are familiar with the Kabbalah, and basically some of the teachings of the Kabbalah is steeped in the correct or certain pronunciation of the ancient Hebrew sounds and letters and words. And according to the Kabbalah, these when you say things a certain kind of way, you actually manifest and bring things into reality. So you can control your reality through the use of the Hebrew letters and the sounds associated with them. So all of this is tying into what you're saying, but it's just interesting to note that what you're really saying is those now in Jerusalem are the Vanguard, which is really the tone scientists, as you said.
They're not.
Reinterpreting. No, I'm saying.
Oh, okay.
I'm saying us. I'm saying
Okay,
us.
we.
Reinterpreting the scriptures and reinterpreting
The sounds.
The sound,
the sounds.
the true sounds of Hebraic fundamentalism.
Yes.
The true sounds of, because see, if we don't keep our Hebraic calendar, then what calendar are we keeping?
Right.
If we don't understand that we should keep, then what kind of Shabbat are we? Are we keeping a Hebraic Shabbat, or are we keeping a Jewish Shabbat? Are we keeping a Christian Shabbat, or are we keeping an Islamic Shabbat?
Well,
Because they all on different
This is y'all's
days.
calendar.
You know, I mean, according to the calendars, the Jews keep it on Saturday, the Islam keeps it on Friday, and the Christians keep it on Sunday. So who's right? Ours don't fall according to Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Ours come according to the first day of the month. Whatever the first day of the month, on the sixth day at evening is the Shabbat. It might fall in the middle of the week for that whole month.
So what you're saying is a lot of these very fundamental things are being misinterpreted.
They've been misinterpreted because we didn't have men reinterpret or redefine the eternal idea to other men.
To keep us off balance.
And that's what I said about the point in time. We have allowed other influences to come into something that we know. We have allowed men to redefine Yah's eternal idea.
Okay.
First, we know that marriage is an eternal idea. Most High was the prototype of that. He married man. He said, I am the husband of man in Jeremiah. And he set the order for male and female relationships. And that order is a perpetual order. It's an everlasting order. But it's been redefined.
Okay.
Sometimes we didn't put releases or divorces and all this. We redefining all these eternal ideas. When it comes down to these feasts we redefining the Shabbat. We defining covenants. And we influencing, and we got leaders that's influencing this upon the people, so the people are totally confused. We're living in the days of mass confusion.
Well, we spoke the other day, and I was astounded at some of the information that you were giving me in reference to the Hebrew connection to 1967.
Okay.
So can you kind of tie that into what it is?
I will. Let me read the scriptures on the blood moon.
Okay.
Abshalom, could you go to the page just before? Yeah, that's it. Now the one before that. And the reason it's talking about, it says, as a spiritual people, go to the page before that.
This one?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It says that we, as a spiritual people, we are spiritually obligated to respond to spiritual occurrences. That means that we're not supposed to miss this tetrad. It's a tetrad, these 4 consecutive blood moons. We're not supposed to miss this.
Absolutely
The law has been written in our hearts now.
Yeah.
It's not in a book. Ain't nobody going to orally transmit the law to you. He said in this particular season, the Most High has told us that He would write the law in our hearts and put that in our inward parts. So it's a whole paradigm of how we're supposed to receive the law today. In this time of our redemption as a people, in this covenant, the new covenant that we are now under, the Most High has changed the method that He's resurrecting His people. So you have to understand that now we as a spiritual people are obligated to look at these signs that's in the heavens, because the universal stars and the moon and all that's in a perfect cycle. It's in a universal order. It don't change. So we can look at these things, and it changes, but it changes according to the order that Yah had set certain things in. That's what I mean. So read Joel 2:28.
Joel 2:28 through 31. And it shall come to pass afterward that I will pour out my spirit upon all flesh, and Your sons and your daughters shall prophesy. Your old men shall dream dreams. Your young men shall see visions. 29. And also upon the servants and upon the handmaids in those days will I pour out my spirit.
The Most High has poured out his spirit. Look what he's done. You all are resurrected from a dead state. You understand who you are. I don't care whether you're at the first stage of the resurrection, second stage of the resurrection, or the third, because there are three. If you ain't never left America, you still know that the Spirit of the Lord has been poured out on you. And it's time for you to understand what you have to do so you can rise up and ascend from one stage to the other. You understand? It's the called, the chosen, and the faithful. You know, 3 stages of the resurrection. It ain't one. It's 3. 3 stages of being awakened. So, you have to understand, you have to allow the Most High to work his work. This is his time. He's pouring out his spirit. He's working a work that ain't never been worked before. But you got to pay attention to those universal orders. You got to pay attention to the eternal idea. People are trying to redefine that eternal idea. Go to Joel 2:30.
Joel, Joel 2:30. And I will shew and show wonders in the heavens and on the earth.
He's showing a wonder in the heavens and on the earth. You're going to be able to see this. Go ahead.
Blood and fire and pillars of smoke. 31. The sun shall be turned into darkness and the moon into blood before the great and the terrible day.
We are in the day of the visitation of the Most High. You have to understand, he's telling you this is being revealed to you now. I've come to reveal that you are approaching the great and terrible day. You've been resurrected. Why ain't you coming home? Why ain't you getting in place? Why are you not preparing? Because the day of the Lord is upon us.
I didn't conclude.
Go ahead.
I'm going to read 31 again. The sun shall be turned into darkness.
The sun shall be turned into darkness.
And the moon into blood.
And the moon into blood.
Before the great and the terrible day of the Lord.
Before, now, this means you're going to get a warning. This is the warning. Before the great day, you're being told, prepare. You got 2 years. This is going to happen 4 consecutive times. Passover 2014, Feast of Tabernacles 2014, Passover 2015, Feast of Tabernacles 2015. You got 2 years, and maybe, we don't know. We don't know the mind of the Most High. We don't know what day he's going to call this on, but we do know we're going to have these 4 consecutive blood moons. And what did read that again? And before the what? The great.
The 31.
Yeah, read
Joel. Some of you know it as 31. The sun shall be turned into darkness, and the great moon into blood, before the great and the terrible day of the Lord comes. That's the way it's written.
That's the way it's written. Okay.
Who said that? Who wrote that?
The Most High, that was wrote by a prophet of the Most High. The prophet said this. They prophesied that this was going to happen. So that means, and everything they didn't say, we fulfilling prophecy.
Who did he get his instructions from?
He got them from the Most High.
Who was he listening to?
The Most High.
Who was he listening to? Maybe it was Stevie Wonder.
Maybe, listen. I know one thing, I know who I'm listening to.
Okay.
So, when was the last time that the blood moon occurred? And what is the spiritual significance and the effect of the blood moon upon the children of Israel? the Hebrew Israelites in particular. The children of Israel will be face to face physically with a traumatic prophetic event. But we will triumph over this dilemma, such as it was done in 1967, the Six-Day War with Israel. The attack had the potential of being another Jewish Holocaust, similar to what happened to them in Europe. But in 6 days, Israel Defense Forces, IDF, triumphed victoriously over their enemies and gainfully seized and occupied Old Jerusalem. They successfully gained the old city of Jerusalem for the first time in 2,000 years. Significant accomplishment for Jewish people. Like I said, I don't have a problem with the Jews. I'm just trying to make it clear that they got to recognize themselves as African Indian people. And if they don't, then they imposters. You know, just like it said, they imposters. But if they recognize themselves as originally African Indian people, then they conquered this. You know, they conquered what we are conquering.
Can I interject something?
Please.
1967, several significant things took place. I recall I was there in 1967. One was the Great Snow that transpired in 1967.
In Chicago.
In
right.
Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing was the African Indian Hebrew Israelite community left America in the year 1967 en route to Liberia. Mm-hmm. All of this was a overcast to keep our people under coverage.
He's saying it was a smoke screen.
It was a smoke screen.
It was a diversion. There were things that were happening that people were looking at and focusing on, which allowed
the Hebrew Israelite community to leave out of America. The next significant thing that transpired was that John Coltrane, his initials JC, made transition 1967. July 17th, 1967. He was the last of the spiritual musical prophets, tone scientists, to exist in America. That spirit later left and went to Bob Marley in the islands. So we'll talk about that later. Just tying all this together relative to the year 1967.
Continuing on with 1967, 1968, the Tetrad. In a book called Shared Dreams, written by Rabbi Mark Schneier, he outlines a compelling relationship which existed during that season between the Jewish community and the involvement with the civil rights movement envisioned by Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and his SCLC delegation.
Unbelievable.
See, what is barely known to the remnant today is that in the fall of 1967, the Israeli government had secured an alliance with Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and his SCL delegation to make a pilgrimage to Jerusalem of over 500 pastors to make 2 sojourns to Israel. Now this was supposed to occur at Christmas, because they were Christians, they're dealing with the Christmas, and the other one was to occur at Easter for them. But Easter simultaneously occurs in the land with Pesach. So they was going to be in the land for Pesach to see that blood red moon in 1968.
My brothers and sisters, I can hardly contain myself. When I first heard this, there are no words to describe my utter astonishment at these facts. The Hebrew Israelite connection to the 4 blood moons.
See, in 1967, Andrew Young, he sealed the pact for this trip to go. Only reason it didn't take place because the 6-day war took place and the land was under siege during the time of Christmas. In other words, there was no traveling in this particular locale, in this region, because of hazardous conditions. The land wasn't, it was still, had just went through the war, and Americans wasn't allowed to be abroad. So they canceled that trip. Now, it came up to 1968 at Pesach. On April the 3rd, King gave a prophetic message. He said that we as a people, he said, I may not get there with you, but we as a people will get to the promised land. He wasn't talking about we was going. He had already set the deal for him to take his people up there, 500 pastors. He said that April the 3rd, April the 4th, he was dead. You got to know why they killed the man. That was a prophetic statement. He was going to make it happen. He wasn't talking, trying to tell somebody to make it. He was going to make it happen. It was, the chords were already set.
I often
Everything was already done.
About that speech when he said, I've been to the promised land and he said, I've looked over and I've seen the promised land. He says, I may not get there with you, but we as a people are going to get there.
Yeah.
How much planning?
Now, that blood moon was supposed to be in the sky April the 13th, 1968. He gave that speech on April 3rd, 1968. 10 days later, everybody in his organizational structure was dealing with his funeral. And it halted that movement. They stopped it. You have to know how significant that there are those that know what's happening with you and with the Hebrew Israelites. Yeah, they thought they was Christians, but they was going to be there for that Pesach moon. They was going to be in the land for that Pesach moon. What happened though, because the Most High, he said, but y'all going to triumph anyway. 1 month later, it's in the scripture. It's described in scripture. If you can't keep the Passover 30 days later, you can keep the Passover. If you're out of the land or something like that, you can come and keep the Passover, and the Most High would accept your offerings a month later. 30 days, less than 30 days later, Nasi Keskiyahu was the first one that walked in from the Hebrew, is the first of the vanguard of the Messianic age, walked in the land and was here, been able to hear ever since.
That's right.
Started the whole movement of our community in Demona.
Prince
Keskiyahu,
member of the African Hebrew Israelite community here in Jerusalem.
So the Most High kept his promise. And we've been here for 46 years. We ain't going nowhere. We headed toward our Jubilee. 4 years, 2018, we got 50 years in the land. Now that's a significant statement, and we got these moons up there. It means that it's time for you all to understand, to prepare to escape from the lands of your captivity. And the Most High is visiting you before, you understand? The message is coming to you before all this is going to transpire, just to let those that have an ear to hear, to understand what you need to do. You don't have a whole lot of time. Matter of fact, you don't have tomorrow, as far as I'm concerned. I've been here for 37 years. My brother Abshalom has been here. He was here when I came here. So I'm just saying, let me continue on, just giving you some of the concepts of that 1968. We have to read this right here, talking about who we represent here in Jerusalem today. And now this is being spoken by one of the Jewish scholars coming out of Germany.
His name is Oscar Goldberg.
Oscar Goldberg, the Oscar Goldberg Foundation.
A German Jewish intellectual and scholar. This is a quote by Oscar Goldberg. The coming of black people from America to the Holy Land signals. Now, it's an indication, a signal.
A sign.
A sign of the vanguard of the Messianic era.
So, this is how long it's been going on. There are those that know who we are. You don't know who we are. But those that then came and preceded before, we are coming to gather our people. We are Judah here. We are the seed of Judah, and unto Judah is the gathering of the people. This message is coming from Zion. You have to be able to recognize the people that are at Zion, because the prophet says Zion would exist in the last days. And it does. You just don't believe it. It says, my people are destroyed for what?
A lack of knowledge.
Because you ignoring the truth. It's already written. It's right before you.
Did you write that?
I didn't write that.
Oh, I thought you.
I didn't write that. I ain't wrote nothing on it. I'm just revealing it to you. It says that, and the word should come forth from out of what? Zion, and the law. No, the law should come forth out of Zion, and the word should come from the people of Jerusalem. Jerusalem means what? Heritage of peace. It ain't talking about no buildings of brick and mortar and all. It's not talking about. Jerusalem is a people of truth. This is New Jerusalem here. This is New Jerusalem here.
Can I interject something?
Please, please, please.
Two things. If my studies reveal it correctly, Zion was always a place of refuge.
It was. Stronghold of refuge.
Then the other thing is, as it states in Hebrew, it says Yerushalayim, which is an inheritance.
It's an inheritance.
So that means that this is
Our inheritance. It's our inheritance, you understand? We are a heritage of peace. We didn't inherit this already.
Oh.
Y'all need to come and get your portion.
Your inheritance.
We're going to cast out lots in a little bit. We just got to cross the other side on the 50th year, on the Jubilee, you understand? We're going to be marching in this, you know. By that time, we don't know what the world is going to be like or possibly be destroyed because the Most High's visitation is upon us now. It ain't coming, it's upon us now. We being purged right now. All the wickedness in the midst of us is being spewed out of the land. One by one. The Most High is taking care of his, he's working his work.
And it's not about color.
Ain't about no color.
It's about the whole land of Israel.
That's what it's about.
So I'm only interjecting, or would like to interject, that it's not just talking about the Dimona community, the Mitzpah community. It's talking about it's talking about Urokum.
Yeah.
It's talking about
the Ashkelon community.
Ashkelon.
Talking about the community up in the...
Now, I'm not talking about our communities.
Oh.
I'm talking about the communities of all of those that are residents in the land of Israel.
That's right. And we got right now, it's over 1.5 million black people, refugees in this land right now that don't have nobody, no kind of refuge. We supposed to be making pilgrimage up here 3 times a year. If you know that you're a Hebrew, you're supposed to be coming up here with your offerings. Supporting the economic system of your people in the land. Now, how you think we supported ourselves nationally? Through giving your offerings every pilgrimage season. That was a time when we gave to the fatherless, the homeless. You understand? You brought it to the priest. You understand? And you gave those offerings, and everybody was able to sustain ourselves on one accord, all in common.
Divine abundance.
Divine abundance, all in common. But if you ain't giving nothing, you ain't even recognizing Zion, you're not even recognizing your people in the land, you got a serious problem. Not with us, with the Most High. And the prophets who already told you what to do. This is the significance of the 4 consecutive blood moons. You got, the Most High is giving you a sign. He's put it up there in the heavens. The people are in place. Everything, the heavens are in place. The only ones that's out of place is those that stand in the places where you've been kept in captivity, where you're in captivity, leaning on Pharaoh.
And the thing that I would just like to say, this is such a powerful event. You can look across every major religion, every offshoot. You can look to astrology. You can look to the New Age. You can look to every major religion you want to, and everyone is saying the same thing. That right now there is an event that's about to take place on the earth. And when this event takes place, there will be no doubt in the minds of men on this earth that there is God and who his chosen are. There will never again be a doubt as to the God of Israel and his people. So I would just like to encourage you to be of good faith, to prepare yourselves mentally, spiritually, physically, in every way possible for the coming of the Lord, because there is no more time. We have lived until the end of the earth, so to speak. Does that mean that the whole earth will be destroyed? I doubt it. But one thing for sure, his people are in place. So now, we can rejoice.
Absolutely.
We can rejoice. There should be no fear in our heart, because no other people on this planet have been trodden down under, abused, used, the byword as much as the black people on this planet.
See, obedience,
no other people.
Obedience is better than sacrifice. Y'all can sacrifice and just say you're going to stay there and do, but it's better to obey now. Being disciplined to what you're being told, instructions coming to you, you got to discipline your behavior to those instructions. And be obedient to the word of the Lord that's coming forth from out of the mouths of those who have dedicated their lives already to him, those who have been redeemed. You understand? You have yet to be redeemed, but let the redeemed say so. You understand? It's a sound. It's going to come forth from out of Jerusalem. It's a trumpet that's being blown from Jerusalem, even in this moment. So if you want to hear it, I pray for you. And I thank you for opening up your mind and your heart. You understand? To the words that the Most High has told me to deliver to you. I'm not trying to deceive you. I'm not trying to tell you what's going to happen. I don't know what's going to happen. All I know is I've been told to give this message to you. Just as it's been given. We have been told to do that. We are coming from Jerusalem, from a high place. We in a high place, arrived, the city of love.
And my name is a high place of Yah.
Now, I'm just saying, we sitting in a high place, and the word is, and we see all the trouble that's going on in the world. And we looking out there, and we wanting the remnant. We know that the remnant is going to hear this message. But I pray that you are the remnant. You understand? And prepare.
So this brother has an institute. And this brother has an organization himself. This brother is a tone scientist, and
I have a company. And it's called Blessed Benevolence Productions. And we have a variety of books, literature that's available, as well as sounds.
Okay, so how can they get some of that?
You just read this off. I'll give it to you, and you can include it in what you do.
Well, I'm gonna give you time. I'm gonna let him talk about his institute, and you find yours.
I got it.
Okay, all right.
So I mean, you can type it into your program, and then.
Oh, okay. I'll put it in a link.
Yeah.
Okay. So, Brother Amoniel,
well, the Institute of Hebrew Fundamentalism and Cultural Research is dedicated to raising up and restoring our culture that was destroyed under the feet of men when we went into captivity. So when we came back into the land, according to Isaiah 58 chapter, we were given a prerequisite by the Most High to be the restorers, to be the repairers of the breach, and the restorers of the paths that we were to dwell in here in the land. So we had to deal with recreating the Hebrew calendar, because the Hebrew calendar doesn't exist. You understand? Not in the right context. So we had to restore.
Okay.
The Institute is dedicated toward dealing with numerology, Hebraic numerology, because it's different. We don't go to 9. We deal with 7. Everything is wrapped around 1 to 7. Hebrew numerology. It don't go past the 8. Ain't no such thing as an 8th day. When you get to 7, you go back to 1. You understand? It's always like that. When you get to the 7th day of the week, you go back to the 1st day of the week. You don't go to no 8th day. Ain't no such thing as an 8th day circumcision. It's the 1st day of the 2nd week. Okay. You understand? So, anytime a child is born, we're dealing with the proper concept that we're supposed to think as far as Hebrew numerology, Hebrew calendar, Hebrew this, Hebrew thought, Hebrew everything. We raising up our culture. We wearing Hebrew clothes every day. We ain't wearing no kind of jet clothes. You understand? We raising up the consciousness that our people are supposed to dwell in. And we researching at the same time every day. It becomes more and more. It's going higher and higher and higher every day. So it's not, we finding out these things, and as we find them out, the Institute is there to reveal it to those that want to be Hebrew fundamentalists.
Okay, so do you have an email address or something where that people can...
I can be reached up under the Institute right now on Facebook, and I can be reached on my personal email, which I give to you.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what I'll do is I'll provide those addresses for you and the links below the video. I would just like to thank my honored guests. Thank you so much for providing this vital information to our people. And people know and understand that this coming age of peace and prosperity and joy and love that is right upon us is for everyone. You know, we're not here to say that it's only for us. It's for everyone. But you do need to prepare yourselves. You do need to know and understand these things because as it has been prophesied, it's, you know, these are the last 4 blood moons within this 500-year period of time. And in between, it's interesting, in between the 4 blood moons is a solar eclipse.
Right.
And then for the first time in history, Hanukkah is going to be celebrated on Thanksgiving.
What is Hanukkah? You got to speak to that because people don't know what Hanukkah is.
Tell the people what Hanukkah is.
Hanukkah is a Jewish holiday, not a holy day, a holiday. It's a Jewish holiday that normally takes place sometimes in December.
Most of the time.
And so, just wanted to tie that in.
But just think of the spiritual significance of all of this. Another solar eclipse in between the 4 blood moons. Hanukkah being celebrated on Thanksgiving, and it will never fall in that particular alignment again. So if you want to verify any of these things, you can always go to the NASA website because all of that information is there. Okay, don't take our word for it.
Plus, you can go into John Hagee's book, which is the same title, The Blood Moons, you know, and he's a Christian pastor, scholar, who's did a lot of research on this, and so it's just not our opinion. This is a warning that goes out to our people, near and far. You understand? To beware. You understand? Pay attention. You understand? The Most High is visiting. It's just visitation. That's all.
Okay. So with that, we're going to go ahead on an end. And I just want to say love you so much. And I'm going to be asking my brothers, you know, in the future to come back and to continue to share information with the people so that they will know what time it is and what to do, you know. The voice of Jerusalem. So, any parting words?
Yeah, I'd like to say 2 things, 3 things. First and foremost, quite naturally giving all honor and praise to Yahweh for allowing us to be assembled. On behalf of myself and my brother, we'd like to thank you for your diligence, your love, your compassion, your mercy, your insights, for continuing to make these types of programs available. Can't thank you enough.
You're welcome.
And then the other thing is that I was moved as we were walking to the house. I'm looking forward to doing a program with my brother here prophetically, dealing with sound has the inherent power to produce the promised effect. In conclusion, my ascension began with John Coltrane when he did the album in 1965 entitled Ascensions. Most of these brothers and sisters were revolutionary, cultural revolutionaries.
Yes.
From, as I recall, as my father play, not to be lengthy. Count Basie, Duke Ellington, Pharoah Sanders, Archie Shepp, John Coltrane, Charlie Parker, Sonny Stitt, Billie Holiday, Ella Fitzgerald, Carmen McRae, Abby Lincoln. All of those individuals changed the course of America through sound.
Yes.
That has and must emanate on behalf of Yahweh Kadosh Israel from Jerusalem. But if it's not given the proper credence, I'm saying from documentation, because we know the Jewish people recorded all of them. Miles Davis, everybody. They have all of that under the CBS, under Atlantic Records, all of the documentation, all of that archives they have. We have to now put that in perspective as cultural revolutionaries to disseminate that properly. I was thinking about Sarah Vaughan and all of what they did. They had to go in the back doors in the clubs to perform, but they did it. Billy Eckstein, Dizzy Gillespie, all of these individuals, they created a whole nother, but they, Monk, Thelonious Monk, they created a whole nother America, which the people didn't know. They were in revolt. They were in cultural revolt to what was taking place to them as a people. So I'm looking forward to us coming together to document this relative to my background, my cultural information, and with my brother prophetically.
Wonderful.
So it comes out of Jerusalem properly, because Coltrane was in search of a new identity in terms of who he was. Miles Davis was looking for himself.
Spiritually so.
Spiritually so. Bob Marley was looking for himself in terms of, that's why he held on to, he would continually say what? Jah, Jah. And Yah blessed him to the time of, it left in 1967, went to Jamaica, Bob Marley, that last prophet. It is now, the triangle has come back full circle to Jerusalem.
My. Thank you. Thank you for that.
Toda, Toda.
Any
I'm
last
good,
words?
I just want to, again, not to, be lengthy, but I thank you for the presentation that you gave before, alerting the people. Excellent presentation. And it led up to this, giving a greater explanation to it, you understand? This is the trumpet blowing from Jerusalem.
Eighth trumpet.
They're the eighth trumpet, you understand? And the trumpet of the priest. We just want to make it clear, and I just want to thank the Most High for giving me the opportunity to come up and to be in your presence, your holy presence, sacred presence like that.
He went out of his way. I want to let y'all know. Don't take this lightly. Don't overlook one word, like the scriptures used to say, not a dot or a tittle. Really, really search your heart and understand what time it is. Okay, it's time out for all of the twerking and all of that other stuff that they're doing over there. That golden calf. And just think about it. All of the efforts that we take to try to sustain ourselves and sustain America, and I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with America. I'm just talking about the system. The system. We need a breath of fresh air. We need God in our lives. So I just want to say to you, just consider that. To all of you from Jerusalem, we love you with a perfect love. Until next time.
Sure.